Myself is here, Peter Lambruni, Anthony Homeke, Liz Brecklin,
Here.
Tom Dean,
Here.
Dave Drake, Dave Edwards, Tracy Gianfrido,
Here.
James Hughes, Joseph Ercolani, Anna Laurie,
Here.
Paul Thompson.
Here. Okay, so far I think there's 7 total, so everybody would be participating, including all the alternates. We're going to continue. Item 2.1 is a continued public hearing on application 2189-24, Matthew Carpio seeking special permit for an auto detailing business at 274 Wells Road. We opened that hearing on September 4th, and it was extended to this meeting. In the meantime, the applicant had applied for a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals, which I understand was denied at its meeting. Was that this month or last month, Dominic?
Last month, it was 10/28,
Okay.
August 28th.
So again, I think we at the initial hearing, we heard a very comprehensive and thorough presentation by the applicant about what he was trying to do and his business, and we heard a number of comments from other people in support of the application. So I think we have a good understanding from that meeting in terms of the facts of the matter. We had expressed. We had explained to the public last time that we have to determine whether or not the application meets the standards of our regulations, and that we're bound by our regulations. And if we conclude it doesn't meet the standards, then we have no choice but to deny. So suggesting the variance was because the Zoning Board of Appeals does have the authority to waive portions of the regulations, basically. Dominic, you did a memo for the commission. Would you like to review that with everyone, and then we'll go back to the public hearing?
Basically, Mr. Chairman, as you mentioned, the applicant is asking for a home occupation per section 3.52, which allows home occupations in the A zone that the applicant's home is in. It's allowed as it's an accessory use, not a primary use is allowed in that zone. There are 2 types of accessory uses that are allowed. One is a minor, identified as a minor home occupation, and there's 6 areas that has to be met in order for it to be considered a minor. And the zoning enforcement officer is the one that has the review process on a minor activity. And the zoning officer, because one of the statements for a minor activity is that it shall not involve customers or clients arriving at the dwelling, and as we all know, this does happen. The second, and so if it's not a minor accessory use, then it can be turned over to the Planning Commission for a special permit for major use. And the 2 areas that came to the forefront as far as whether it meets the zoning requirements include the statement that it shall be operated entirely within the confines of the building. And the other one was that it shall have adequate off-street parking for the home occupation. As the chairman outlined, those are the 2 areas that that we tabled action on it and continue the public hearing to give the applicant a chance to go back to the Zoning Board of Appeals to see if they saw a hardship to vary that. And that, if that did come to, if they did find that hardship and did grant that variance, that would give the Planning and Zoning Commission the opportunity to continue with your review on the major act, on the major home occupation. But that didn't happen. As pointed out, the Zoning Board of Appeals said there was not any legal hardship on there, and therefore denied the application. So what we have is a home occupation, that's a request of a home occupation that doesn't meet three aspects of the zoning. And those are the last three things on my memo. For a minor activity, the home occupation shall not involve customers or clients arriving into the dwelling. And for major activities, it shall be operated entirely within the confines of the dwelling, and it shall have adequate off-street parking. In that this application does not meet that, the staff would recommend that the commission must deny the application.
Thank you. Before we go back to the public and open up the applicant and open up the hearing again, I just want to mention our acting planner's memo. There are other standards as well that are part of our review, so I just wanted people to realize that he's raised particular ones with a question as to whether there's compliance, but the other standards include noise, impacts to the neighborhood, et cetera. There's a variety of them. Before we actually go even back to the public hearing, I just also wanted to ask, was everybody who's here tonight here for the first session of this hearing?
Yes.
Great, okay. All right, so we'll go back and offer the applicant an opportunity to speak. As I indicated before, you did a very thorough and helpful presentation last time, in terms of the nature of the operation and what you're seeking to do and so forth. But if you have anything additional, new information you'd like to add, or particularly speak, to the standards that we've been wrestling with, clients arriving at the dwelling, the business being operated entirely within the dwelling, and having off-street parking for the home occupation in addition to the dwelling. Those are the three that the memo raised and that we talked about last time. But would the applicant like to speak?
That paper's going to hand out to everyone.
Sure.
It's also a script to follow along.
Thank you.
Good evening. Matthew Carpio, 274 Wells Road. First off, I wanted to thank you guys all for your time tonight. On October 28th, I got the date wrong. On October 28th, my variance was denied from the Zoning Board of Appeals. I met with Charles the following day, which was the 29th, and explained to him what I am about to tell you guys tonight. Charles had absolutely no idea what OCD was, so I had to explain him a brief summary of what it is and what I've been dealing with all my life. Charles handed me a cease and desist order, and he ripped it up after I told him my story, similar to what I will be telling you in just a few moments. Charles explicitly told me what I had told him to tell you guys here tonight. One thing I wanted to say is that Charles asked me about working in the winter. And let me just say two words: seasonal depression. The winter is a very slow but hard time for me due to the cold temperatures. There are times during the winter if someone does ask for a detail, I have accepted jobs no matter the temperature. I don't use the hose because I don't want to freeze the pipes. I would just offer interior details. So if somebody does reach out, I do accept. Winter can be a living hell for me. I don't use the hose because Today I stand before you feeling exhausted after attending multiple meetings where I have struggled to make progress. The emotional and mental toll this process has taken on me is significant and debilitating. I understand that my journey may not be fully visible to others, but I hope to convey the seriousness of my situation regarding my auto detailing work from home as has now come to that point, unfortunately. This appeal process compelled me to share deeply personal aspects of my life, which I typically reserve for my closest family. It's a difficult position for me, but I believe it is essential for you to understand why this matter is so critical. I feel as though my civil rights are at stake and my mental health struggles have not been properly considered and more so overlooked. I have dealt with severe OCD and separation anxiety since childhood, which has significantly impacted my life and still does to this very day. After years and years of therapy and striving to find coping mechanisms, I discovered that cleaning cars for my home with my own schedule provides me a much-needed sense of stability, safety, and purpose. I'm aware of the town regulations and respectfully am requesting an accommodation. My variance was denied under the sections 3.5.2D, number 2 and 4. However, I want to emphasize that my operations can solely consist of washing and vacuuming vehicles in my driveway during designated hours. I do strive my best to respect the community, and my neighbors have consistently expressed their support that I do not disrupt them whatsoever. Over the course of this process, I have felt like a broken record, repeating my circumstances and challenges in hopes of being understood. The first day I walked in here, I never thought it would have to come to this point, or I would have to talk about something so uncomfortable for me. After the recent Zoning Board of Appeals meeting, Commissioner Brady acknowledged my struggles, just as me being a young kid looking to try and make money and keep busy, but to be clueless with the documentation provided by my doctor, which I simply asked about, and I felt was overlooked, and he just turned the other way. This was on the 28th. I had asked Charles if the letter was addressed on the 28th to the board, and I didn't get much of an answer. I understand the Board of Appeals has limited jurisdiction, but I believe there may be a lack of communication and understanding among the committees. If I was going to be denied again, why waste my time for another meeting? During my recent Zoning Board of Appeals meeting, I will not name call, but someone on the board had their hand over their face and was on their phone a majority of the time during my appeal process, while I and another person in my favor were speaking. This board member should be let go immediately. My appeal seems like a complete joke at this point, but I have put considerable information and effort into this process without trying to go into further depth of my personal information, and I feel that my concerns have not been fully recognized with what I and my family have provided. If my situation does not resonate with you on a human level, I have to consider filing a grievance under the American with Disabilities Act to advocate for my civil rights that are being violated. I simply ask this board to make a compassionate decision that allows me to continue my work, as this helps me cope with my disability from a day-to-day basis. I'm advocating for people with mental health and other disabilities, and I'm standing tall on my Fourth Amendment right. Over these last few months, as I walk into the town hall, I can't help but notice the plaque to the right of the entrance of Thomas P. Lasher, which I also have provided in this packet. This gentleman was honored through the town by improving awareness for people with disabilities, and I truly hope he is honored here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to open it up if there's anyone in the public who wants to speak. Sure, and I guess if you could come up, identify your name and address, and again, anybody who speaks, I would ask that you speak to anything that's new, but there's no need to repeat what was said the last time.
Tom McCarpio. I live in 1260 Farmington Ave in Berlin. I was a resident for over 30 years in Weathersfield. Matt, that was wonderful that you did that. It's very hard for him to talk about it and us to talk about crazy things like he has. The meeting we were at last month, it was supposed to be for variance, and I think that everybody on the, I shouldn't say everyone, but the board was very confused on what they were trying to accomplish. I walked out, I said a couple things, and I wasn't rude or mean, but I left. I said, I just can't listen to it anymore. They were bickering between each other on who's supposed to do what, and if the zoning didn't approve it, then why should we look at it? And I said, well, that's a variance, and that's why we're here. That's what your job is, I guess, So anyway, it was horrible. It was a horrible experience, and there's a few people on the committee that agreed with me later on that it was a horrible meeting. It was a horrible show that happened. Anyway, back to Matt. This is something that he's not going to do for the rest of his life in his backyard. This is something that if he can get through the next year, figure out what he's going to do, if we can at least ask for, I'm not asking for 20 years for him to do this in his backyard or his driveway, but if we can do something for a year, if you consider, hey, let's look at this in another year and see if there's problems with it, or if there's issues with it or whatever. I would ask you to maybe look at that, if you could do that at all. I understand that there's rules, there's laws that you have to go by. I understand all that. But that's why there was supposed to be that's why there was a variance, or we went for a variance. But like I said, the woman running the show just said, well, I don't understand why we're even here. It should be the zoning that approves this. And she basically said, well, I'm not going to approve this. And that was how it ended. And that's when I got aggravated and I just walked out because I was disgusted over the whole thing. So anyway, appreciate your time. Not going to take any longer. So whatever you can do, I'd appreciate it if you can do something. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Hi, thank you for listening to me. My name is Michelle Carpio. I live at 274 Wells Road. My son is Matthew Carpio, who lives with me. This is a very difficult situation to talk about publicly. As Matthew's mom, having had to help him through his childhood and adulthood, it's a very raw and emotional battle that we went through and have now made tremendous strides. I have 4 children, so I've gone through many trials and tribulations with all 4. I have seen Matthew come a very long way, mental and health-wise. His mental capacity has changed tremendously within the past 4 years. That has been so detrimental and so beneficial to his health and our family as well. Ever since his childhood, he has suffered from OCD and GAD, general anxiety disorder, and now suffers ever so slightly, seeing he has found his niche, which is car detailing. He has found an outlet that helps his mental health, incredibly satisfying. Funny how something so simple as detailing cars can also cure someone's mental health issues. Matthew is a homebody, which can make life a little more challenging. He has a need and feels he needs to be close to me or know where I am at all times, so he feels at peace and is content knowing where I am when he is working his part-time jobs at Connecticut School of Broadcasting, Joey Garlics, and doing his car detailing. When he is away from me, he knows that he will see me at home soon and can find peace with that. He found a coping mechanism. He had no choice. He has severe anxiety, separation issues. I feel that that is starting to calm down. No one knows how Matthew's mind operates. If I told you all the things that went through his mind or how he felt physically just to make his life feel or seem normal, I don't think you would understand. It's very disheartening. I still do not like talking about this. It brings up so many ill feelings and emotions. The toll it took on me, my husband, and siblings was beyond comprehensible. We sometimes felt like a prisoner in our own home. I will not go into details. Just by saying feeling like a prisoner in our own home speaks volumes. It by no means was his fault. It was how his mind just operated. Mental health is very real, and there are cases where certain exceptions are made to accommodate someone who suffers with any sort of health issues. The school made exceptions for Matthew throughout his school years. There is a saying, the struggle is real. Just think about that for a minute. Thank you for your time, and have a lovely night.
Thank you. Anyone else who'd like to speak? Okay. If last call for public comment. So back to the commission. Does anybody have any questions at this stage for the applicant? And if not, then I think we need to decide a couple things. One is whether or not we close the hearing and are prepared to vote. Another one would be whether we collectively wish to have any input from our town attorney just on some of the further arguments that were made tonight in terms of the Americans with Disabilities Act. I think I indicated last time that, you know, unfortunately, from the applicant's perspective, I have not seen it applied, you know, in a zoning proceeding like this. But and again, I also want to just reiterate, we admire you and sympathize with your situation here. And part of our situation is our home occupation regulations are really written. Your situation is sort of not the typical, just in terms of what you're doing business-wise, and the regulations weren't really designed for it. So that's part of what we're trying to navigate through. But I guess from my perspective, I guess I don't see, I'm fine, you know, getting some measure of input from the town attorney just to be able to give us a little bit of input and potential guidance on, you know, whether or not the ADA, you know, he believes would have any bearing on our decision. And if we want to do that, then I guess there's two ways we could do that as well. When are our next two meetings? Next one is probably 2 weeks from yesterday.
The next meeting is 11/19,
And then when's the first one in December?
12/3.
3. So if we wanted to keep it open, we'd need further extension from the applicant, and he gave an extension of about, 32 days to get us to tonight, because I think the hearing opened on September 4th would have had to be closed around October 9th. So what I'm gonna, you know, I guess, I think we could properly close the hearing because the town attorney is giving us legal guidance, but I'm fine with leaving it open. And that way, if there is anything that comes up related to that we want to ask the applicant a question, for example, we'd still have the ability to do it. So question for the applicant, you have the ability, if you grant an extension, we could continue the hearing so that we have time to get our town attorney input and actually have a dialogue if there's any need to have it after we receive that. If we close the hearing tonight, then we're not able to speak to you any further. So if you were willing, my suggestion is just give us an extension until that December meeting, because I don't know whether we can get a response from the town attorney in time for our next meeting. You would consent to that? Okay.
Can I just ask one more question?
Yes.
Please? So directly, I'm wondering what are the barriers to using the revenue generated by your business to get either another space to do it from or to create some kind of a mobile detailing situation? I understand you're requesting it because it's at home and that's where you feel safe and comfortable doing it. But what would be barriers to using the revenue you generate from the business to either getting a mobile detailing business or a physical location?
I really don't have an answer for you. I don't know.
I have a shop in Berlin that we talked about him coming once my tenant leaves, coming and do work there, but that might not be for months. I don't know how long it will be, but we spoke about that at one time. It'll be over where I work, so.
Question?
Yes.
Matt, where's your customer base primarily from? Where are most of your clients from town or from other towns? Just wing it, I mean, it just can...
I'd say about I want to say half from others, but I'd say about 60% maybe from in town, and the rest could be surrounding town.
I guess,
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I tend to agree with your phrasing of the possibilities that we have available. Also, I think the postponing a decision to allow this additional input from the town attorney would also allow the applicant to come up with any authorities, because he has cited rights that he believed would be denied if any adverse action would be taken with regards to his application, but we have not seen any authorities or documentation, cases, anything else. And in such an application, the applicant does have the burden of coming forward with the, with the evidence and the authority that would allow the commission to perform the act that the applicant has requested. So this additional time would allow the applicant to come forward with any such documentation or other evidence that could be used as authority for having the commission act in the way that the applicant has requested.
Hey, Tom. Peter?
How do I say this? I really don't care what the attorney thinks, to be honest. If he says that it doesn't apply, it doesn't really affect my decision here. The way I see this is this young man here who's got an issue, and his family's trying to help him out. And I think I brought it up last meeting, and his dad just brought it up again today. Maybe we just put some time frame on here. I can't imagine you're going to be doing this the rest of your life. I hope not. You're going to either grow out of it, or your dad's going to find some other better place for you to do this. You're in a comfortable spot right now, and this seems to be helping. So I look at this more from a humanistic perspective here. And I'd be inclined to just say, okay, let's give him a year. Now, one thing that bugs me here, and I'll just be honest, someone came to us not too long ago with exactly the same two conditions that you're asking for, and we said no. Okay, but they didn't have an ADA issue. They didn't have any kind of mental illness type issue. So I'm going to believe what you say, and I'm going to believe what your family's saying here. And I'm willing tonight to go forward and give you a year to get your act together. Hopefully you can work something out with your dad or find something different to do. So that means that you're going to have pretty much the rest of next summer, to kind of work through something different and find either some better accommodations or a better place in your mind where maybe you could work somewhere else. So that's what I'd like to do. I think they've gone through enough. 3 meetings, 4 meetings. I mean, it just seems like, oh man, another meeting, another thing. So that's kind of where I sit. And if this commission is willing, I'd say let's close it and let's make a motion to that respect and move on with this. That's what I'm suggesting, guys and gals.
Yeah, and
This is Tracy.
Yep.
I have a question. Can we, as a planning and zoning group, do that? Go against the rules, or like how does that work?
I think that's an important question that you're raising, and certainly, the applicant. If the applicant were correct that the ADA has any application, then that would be a potential way to go ahead, even if we feel he's not complying with the regulations. If ADA does not apply, and we conclude that he's not complying with those 2 or 3 sections of the regulations, then, we're struggling. I'm struggling with what the procedure is for us to say,
I
here's a
understand,
permit, even though we've
But
concluded.
we've given people a year or two to get their act together. For
Yeah.
example, the guy wanted to put his boat in the front, and it was against the regulation, and he says, I have no place to put it right now. So I said, okay, we'll give
Yeah.
you a year to find another place to put it.
I think, and again, I could be wrong, and I wasn't at every meeting either, but I think many of those types of situations, I think, were ones where there was not an issue with somebody being too close to the side yard or anything like that. The issue was really that you had neighbor opposition saying, it's negatively impacting me, which is another one of our standards. And I think there's certainly been a few situations where we've said, rather than just completely say no, give them a year, warn them that it can't continue. But I don't recall a situation where we were concluding that there was a hard and fast standard that we didn't think they met. I thought those were more subjective judgments. Paul?
Yeah, I might be asking a question at the wrong time, but Dominic, just a quick refresher, how many complaints did we have on this?
I have, I have not received any, but
It was just one,
I
right?
wouldn't. There was a person that showed up at the zoning board of appeals meeting that voiced their opposition to it. I think, I don't recall back when we had the hearing whether we had anybody come. I do think that somebody wrote something. There was some discussion about being, anonymous type of thing.
That's what I recall. So if I've got it right, we have one, maybe two documented complaints, and it may be the same complaint just showing up twice. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I guess the other benefit of the town attorney is if there's any creative way that he can think of to try to achieve what Peter is suggesting, ADA or otherwise, that might potentially be of help to us here. And I think the reality is if the hearing, continues for another 6 weeks, then that's another 6 weeks that the zoning officer is not taking action
gets
to
to keep
pursue
working.
the cease and desist. So, his situation remains unchanged as long as this proceeding is continuing. So there's not, that actually may be more of a positive to him than a negative in the long run.
Joe, here's what's kind of bugging me here. So are you saying that there's conditions that we can't override on a temporary basis if we so wish as a commission? If that's the case, then why are they here at all? Then you should have just said, it's not going to work because they don't have the power to do it.
I think that's what we were raising at the initial hearing in terms of we think these are issues we don't know. We're struggling because we don't think we can just ignore them, and that led to us suggesting that they go to the BZA with the hope that the BZA would have waived them, right? But it's not, that's the.
But what I'm suggesting is not granting them a forever variance that they tried. That didn't work. I understand why maybe they said, no, we don't want to give a forever situation here, because then there's precedents and other people we've said no to. But why not just give them a temporary 1-year reprieve? I think we are empowered to do that.
Well, I guess part of what I'm thinking is there a way to give a 1-year reprieve that's not necessarily even in the form of a permit, but it's in the form of, under the circumstances, we're asking that no enforcement action be taken for some period of time.
Fine.
But that's what I'm struggling with. Can we, is there a process that could get us towards something along the lines that you're suggesting? And I can't, in my own mind, be firm on that sitting here right now without some consultation, which I think would be helpful. But, I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but I've been struggling to try to find a way to make this work as well, and I think everybody is here.
I agree with Peter. I think we should just give them some more time.
Yeah, and again, if we continue the meeting till whatever it is, December 3rd, December 5th,
Well, why
that
not
is
give them a
giving him
year
time, and then we.
see?
Yeah, I'm just, again, I'm just not, I'm back to, there are clear standards here that we have to make a finding to grant a permit that they're in compliance. And there's issues as to those standards. Did Dominic have something?
Yeah, I understand we're trying to help someone here. The problem, going the way the chairman is suggesting, there's a legal reason why you're doing that. It's not just an emotional situation, and I don't think you want to. I don't think you want to go down a path of, the Planning and Zoning Commission being acting on emotions.
I don't think it's emotion. I think if someone has a disability,
Yeah.
No,
No,
that's
I understand
the
what you're saying,
difference.
but nah, yeah. But this way you're pursuing something. It's a legitimate. It seems to me it's a legitimate question whether that law applies to a zoning issue. I don't know that.
If we were to take such action tonight, and we give them a year, who's going to come after us?
Well, no.
A neighbor could appeal it, but back to your point,
Yeah.
Peter, we have, then we'll have 5 more people come in, and when the person comes in with the camper that is in the wrong yard or too close and says, but you just let the prior applicant go ahead and you granted a permit and you ignored that they didn't meet your standards. I mean, that's part of what the struggle is here, I think, because we've even, in the camper situation, we've struggled where there were no issues of whether they, there were no regulation issues. They had to be here to have it in a particular yard, and it was a yes or no based on the impacts to the neighborhood. And we felt very uncomfortable taking, in the situations where we said no a couple of times, we felt uncomfortable making it immediate.
Yeah.
But again, I'm really headed towards, can we, within our jurisdiction, basically say, no enforcement action to be taken for a particular amount of time, perhaps on the theory that this doesn't neatly fit in the box that our regulations were designed to handle, and, is there a little bit of gray area or room for interpretation to sort of get to that point? But I'm not really comfortable to just wing it right now.
Is there a way that, as a commission, we can keep, I hate to say this, kicking it down the road till next spring when hopefully a place opens up with his dad? I mean, can we just, I don't know, can we just
Right. Well,
every
you could-
month show up here and continue it?
These are,
I think there are limitations on how long we can continue
Yeah.
it.
for this one, yes, but, could he withdraw this one before we vote and reapply, and then there's another 4-month again, if this process continues, I think we don't need to be hearing for the December meeting, we don't need to hear the full story and everything that I know has been difficult to everybody to speak to, but we're really just trying to find out a way if we can basically avoid saying no tonight, which is based on the black and white. That would be really the easy determination in my view.
You guys are in a tough spot. I understand.
Yes. So I'm not seeing a downside, but again, if the majority here decides that they want to go ahead and vote, whichever way, it's a majority vote here. I'm not making the decision, but my suggestion is the town attorney consultation could potentially have benefit, and in the meantime, the applicant is not being injured. He can continue to operate until we get to the end of our process.
Yeah, if I listen to this too, the benefit of the town attorney, I think, is the applicant is bringing a novel situation to us, right? And he should be credited with that. So I think by extending it, if I have it right, we'll be able to get the town attorney's opinion to make sure that our decision, because I don't think there's anybody on the commission that doesn't want to see him be successful in doing it for a year and keeping him in business. The town attorney will afford us the opportunity to have a legal opinion, not just for this applicant vis-a-vis ADA, but how we can address it going forward in the future. So it's essentially an investment in time and a little bit of headache, I guess, administratively for the applicant, but he stays in business and we get a legal opinion that would support the ADA aspect of this.
Or perhaps a creative way, even without the ADA, to support something. But part of also what I'm struggling with is, in the future, any applicant could come to us and they might have a similar base situation that they're dealing with, but if they come to us and say, I need to put 2, barber stations in my home that, essentially have or one chair that, has customers coming to the house, which I think starts to get you into another area, where there are limits to what they can do. It's just sitting here right now, I think we have to keep in mind how we're treating other future applicants as well, and that at some level, we can't just ignore completely what's in the regulations.
I guess,
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
One of the tenets that puts the zoning board of appeals versus the planning commission is that the planning commission sets precedent. Because when you're looking at things, you're looking at holistically, you're looking at how it affects the entire community. When the zoning board of appeals is looking at something, they're looking specifically at that particular piece of property and what that instance makes it that you can't comply with the zoning regulations. So they don't set precedent. No one can go back to the zoning board of appeals and say, well, you did this for that guy, and that's not it. But the planning commission does set precedent. So I would strongly advise you to think in those kind of terms when you give. I mean, this case is an anomaly. I mean, let's face it. I mean, everybody wants to help this gentleman, obviously, but you know, you're to look at with your actions in the overall scheme of the community. You're the Planning and Zoning Commission, not the Zoning Board of Appeals. That's why we kicked it over to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
I don't get
So, but anyway, that's, you know.
I think that either way is okay with me. Just to move this along, maybe we should just,
We haven't closed the.
I understand.
Well, actually, we may not close the hearing.
We may not, so do we have to make a motion not to close the meeting?
Well, I guess, why don't we just have a consensus discussion first of what we want to do, because I think it might have two parts to it.
Okay.
And it, you know, I guess the driver is, do we wish to get some input from the town attorney? And if we do, then my suggestion is we continue the hearing, because the applicant has said that he would be willing to, what he's doing is he's giving us an extension of time to close the hearing. Alternatively, we can, because the hearing, just for those of you in the audience, the way our procedures work, once the hearing is opened, it's supposed to be completed within 35 days, but the applicant may consent to up to a 65-day extension. Otherwise, if we close the hearing tonight, we have 65 days to vote, and we could still get the town attorney opinion. But my point was, by leaving it open, it again gives us the opportunity to continue, if we need to, any dialogue with you. So I think if he's willing to do it, I think it makes sense.
Yeah, part of my problem is that I'm definitely, sympathetic to the applicant on this. I really want him to succeed in his efforts, but we have a regulation that on the face of it seems to be impartial. It's non-discriminatory. It's not like the kind of typical situation that you find in zoning regulations whereby you have a definition of a family that is restrictive, that may, for example, would prevent the establishment of a group home because the definition of a family is so restrictive that it requires everybody in that home being of blood relation or marital relation, that kind of thing. And that would be more of an overt discriminatory thing. In this case, the regulation is inherently objective, and it doesn't seem to, on the face of it, impart a discriminatory aspect or a discriminatory effort on the part of the town in the establishment of the standard. So
I appreciate those comments, Tom, and I guess could we just try to go around here and get a consensus in terms of those of you who agree to seek some input from
I'd
the
be
town attorney?
okay, since he's willing, to extend it and keep it open, if that's what.
Is that okay with everyone else?
Yes.
I hate to make you go to more meetings, but I think we want to get this right for everybody. And unfortunately, I think that might require some more questions, especially like if there's potential of a concern about litigation or something like that, we should get the right answer.
So I think what we would do is, it can probably be a single motion, or it could be two motions, but it would be to continue, what's the date again of the December meeting, Dominic?
December 3rd?
December 3rd. So I guess the question is, it may make sense just to continue it to December 3rd, because my concern is we're not going to get adequate input in 2 weeks. So I think we would be moving to continue the public hearing to December 3rd, and in the meantime, to seek some input from the town attorney, if somebody would like to make that motion.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Paul, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Peter, any discussion? And just to reconfirm, you've indicated earlier that you're agreeable to the extension. I'm sorry? In the meantime, you can keep going, and, right, we'll be back here in December. Okay, so all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstention? Okay, so that's it for tonight. We will proceed on that plan, and if for whatever reason we have anything that Dominic can always, be in touch with you. If you have a question, you can give him a call, and if he has a question or needs anything further, he can do the same. So, again,
Sign up.
keep the sign up, I guess, if you can do that. And again, I hope you understand that we're trying to figure this out as best we can and see if there's a path that is going to be one that that you're looking for. So, okay. Okay, thank you.
Coming in.
Okay. Let's see. Next, other business, Frank DeBacco, Reservoir Estates, reduction of construction bond.
Chairman and
Yes.
Commissioners, you have the town engineer's recommendation on reducing the bond.
Good luck.
And basically giving a reduction of 75% of the existing bonds that are being held. Again, you have the engineer's report on what, the front page is the main thing. The other pages are the
Could you
details.
summarize what all these numbers mean? I mean, I kind
Well,
of
what
struggle.
that's why we
I'm missing the front
we
page.
crafted the front page.
I think I'm
Front
missing the
page?
front
Which one?
page. Is it over here?
It should be,
Which front page?
Dated November 5th, right?
This one?
Yeah, that's
Okay, okay.
This one.
yep.
I don't think I've got that.
I don't, yeah, it has, the town is currently holding separate performance bonds. Is it, do you have that?
Yes.
Okay.
Certainly.
And so there's three phases.
Pile of stuff when you came in.
Here, I got it on my phone.
There's three phases to this project. A portion of each phase is completed, I had, oh yeah, let me just pass this out. Anyway, the phase one, the bond currently that is being held is $99,913 on it. The engineer went through the project and all the outstanding items. On that list, the yellow highlighted areas are the areas that is still remaining to be completed. And so the engineer came up with that $99,000 should be reduced to $14,900.
Okay.
And then for phase two, there's a $208,500 less, and he's recommending a reduction to $95,700. And then on phase three,
Could you repeat that again? That's-
yeah, it's
Phase
right
two?
underneath it. You see that front page right there?
Yeah.
Right there, the top is.
Okay, got you.
The top is what we're holding now. You see those phase 1, 2, and 3? Mm-hmm. Okay, that's what we're holding now. The bottom in bold is what the engineer is recommending.
We continue
reduce.
to hold.
Yes,
Okay.
okay. And phase 3 is 153.5, and he's recommending a reduction to 40,100. And then the water and sanitary sewer, we're holding 138,800, and he's recommending a reduction to 3,300. So all in total, he's recommending a reduction of to $154,000 from the 607.13 that we are now holding.
How much?
Right now, we're holding
Right.
$600,713. And that's all phase 1, 2, and 3.
And that would go down to what?
So that will go down to $154,000. So it's a reduction of down to about 75% of it.
And question for you, inside here, there's
Yeah.
on several pages, comments where he has,
And that's how he's arrived at it.
at these numbers that you just
That's
gave us. So
correct.
those are already accounted for in that.
That's
Okay.
how he arrived at it.
Okay. Mr. DeBacco, if you could identify your name and address, and if you have anything you'd like to comment on.
Frank DeMacco, 519 Cedar Ridge Drive, Reservoir Estates in Weathersfield that we're building. We went through the comments. Unfortunately, I didn't get the opportunity because we've been busy. Derek's been out to catch up with one another. But I don't have any major objections to anything. Some of the questions I have, I just don't understand and need his input. For example, like the stop sign we've had out there is 6 years old. I don't know what the difference is. I know we bought signs and stuff from the town. I don't know if that we bought from the town and we put it up and it's wrong, or if it's purple. I don't know. It's a stop sign. It looks red, it's brand new, 6 years old. There's, I guess, a number missing or something. I don't know. The lights have been ordered with Eversource to energize the entire subdivision. We wait for them to show up. And once they come, we'll ask for that reduction. So I'll be back probably another 30 days or 60 days to continue to keep knocking it down.
But I assume you prefer to have us act on his recommendation tonight as opposed to waiting
I'll
for you
catch
to
up with them later.
talk
I'm
to him
not
further.
worried about
Okay.
it. It's nothing significant.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? I think typically on this type of matter, we're relying on the expertise of our town engineer to advise us.
I would suggest that.
I saw a couple of hands, I'm sorry.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. My experience is the town engineer is usually pretty diligent in his efforts to both protect the town and ensure compliance with the applicable regulations. It seems to me that on Phase 1 and Phase 3, the amounts to be retained are basically to cover what I would typically call punch list type items.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
on the water and sewer, usually just looking for the as-built that we got to get from MDC for your records. Same with Eversource and CNG. Put them all on one drawing for him. I guess he wants a copy for the town office.
Yeah, and we have Phase 2 and Phase 3, the reductions are roughly on Phase 2 about 50%, and on Phase 3 about a 75% or 70% reduction. So I congratulate your efforts and your accomplishments to date. I'm certainly myself willing to go in favor of what the recommendation of the town engineer is.
Anybody else have questions? If not, would someone, and what is it that do we need to make a motion
Yeah, I would,
to approve the recommendation, the recommended adjustment in the bonds as recommended by the town engineer in his memo dated November 5th?
that's it.
Would someone like to so move?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Thank you. Let's moving on here. Minutes of October 1. They are
Thanks.
short minutes.
Would you like to keep this one? I got digital ones.
I'll probably put it in recycling.
Would someone, anybody have comments on the minutes? And if not, would someone like to make a motion to approve?
I wasn't here in that meeting, so I'm abstaining from this.
Okay. Anybody have questions or comments on the accuracy of the minutes or anything? Okay. Would someone like to make a motion?
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Abstain.
Okay, any other abstentions? Okay. Staff reports and pending applications. I don't know that we have any pending application for the next meeting. Is that correct?
That's correct, Mr. Chairman. If you would bear with me for about 5 minutes, I'd like to give you an update. We do not have any applications for the next meeting, so if you wanted to cancel that meeting,
What date is that again?
that's 19th, November 19th.
November? Okay.
But we do have an application that just came in, and it's, if you recall, 1000 Silas Dean Highway. You guys just, I guess, went through it, and when I when I came here, I don't know, 2 years ago, the first stint or something, that popped up then too. It's a situation where there's a warehouse, and they've been illegally storing things in that warehouse. And anyway, the zoning enforcement officer has stopped them, but they're still doing it, and we lien the property on that. So they did make application to come before the commission, but there were a lot of problems with it, and not just plain old, hard problems like a sewer or, things that can be fixed. Part of the problem is that the zoning only allows warehousing of items that are sold or manufactured on site. And this is, I think it's Asian food, Oriental food distributor, basically, that's storing boxes there, and the fire marshal has been on the case and things like that too. Anyway, I just wanted to give you a preview of that's coming back, and it'll be on the agenda for September 3rd. December 3rd. I'm sorry, December 3rd. And if you ever get a chance and you want to, and you don't feel comfortable going by yourself, you can always give me a call, and I'd be happy to let you go, and maybe we can get through. But they have people that are guarding the place, and
Actually look inside it? We'll look inside it?
they won't let us inside. So
Really?
Well, I've driven around the place, yeah.
yeah, you could see the activity going on, but it's I'm trying to think of
The old Weight
It's 1,000
Watchers building.
Oh, okay.
I think
Okay.
it's past where the health, is it like Hartford Healthcare? Is that where it is?
The old Weight Watchers across from Hartford Healthcare
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Don, can I ask a question?
Yeah, sure.
when it was on fire.
Last time they had a pretty shaky site plan, remember? It was
It's still
just like-
shaky.
Home empty.
Okay,
It's still shaky, Peter.
okay.
It's the same site plan that I reviewed 2
Yeah.
years ago.
Oh, my God.
Is it a special permit also?
It's a special permit.
So there'll be a public
He's
hearing?
applying, yeah, it's going to be a public hearing. He's applying
Okay.
for a special permit.
So I think if if we have nothing on the agenda for November 19th, then it seems like we should cancel that one.
Right.
And at this
I-
point, there can't be any public hearing item on it anyway. It's already too late, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, no, there won't be anything in the,
Okay.
I'll probably be reviewing it, spending a lot of time.
Okay.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
We already approved the 2025 meeting schedule, but a thought occurred to me at some point after that meeting, which is probably 2 meetings ago. In the old days, when I first came on, when the schedule was set for the year, I think it was both July and August, there would only be one of the 2 meetings that would be actually formally on the schedule to give the commission a little little break during the summer months, and I think in more recent years, we've included 2 meetings in July and 2 meetings in August, but just, and I think the reality is if there were truly a dire emergency, then staff can try to see if they can get a quorum and have a special meeting, but many, I think a number of other towns on their commissions that meet, even one town I can think of where the commission meets 1 time a month typically, but they don't meet in August, for example. So just throwing that out there, and Dominic, if you have any thoughts or commission members have any thoughts, if we'd like to, perhaps consider limiting the July and August to 1 meeting, and if you're going to do that, maybe it makes more sense. You think it makes more sense to keep the first meeting and not do the second one, maybe, on each month?
Yeah,
Sounds
that's
good to me.
probably good.
Yeah, and again, I think as needed, we could always get
You can always
together.
schedule a special meeting.
So would we need to have that on the agenda maybe for our next meeting to amend our 2025 meeting schedule, if that's what the commission would like to do? Okay. Okay, anything else?
I have a question, and I think we might want to come off the record for this.
Okay, so are we ready to adjourn here then? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second? Chris, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, we are done.
Be out.
When that light is off. But the green lights stay on here, how come?
Did we cancel